Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And in this powerful statement about the very nature of Christ and our jobs as his disciples, Jesus begins this little passage with the word instead. Whenever you see an instead, it should imply that something else was just said or something else is happening, and that's not the way it ought to be. So, this is what you're doing, and instead, you ought to do that. So what I just read is the that. What is the this? That is the disciples arguing, the disciples indignant, the disciples saying, hey, we want to be powerful or wealthy or rich, or we want to be prominent in the kingdom. We want to be the sort of people that other folks at and they're envious of. Other people see us and say, ooh, that guy's great. And Jesus instead says, the greatness that God cares about, the greatness that we see in Jesus, the greatness that Scripture teaches, that the church promotes, and that we as his disciples ought to be seeking to exemplify in our lives, that greatness is inextricably linked to goodness. To be great like Jesus means we got to be good. We need to be good, wholesome and holy and righteous and right. What we do and how we act, it's good. It's good. And everywhere else we look, we see greatness as a function of some sort of excellence in stature or in ability, some sort of excellence in achievement. You can pick a field and find people that the rest of society would point to and say, well, they're great. And that could be something that we want to try to emulate or we would want to try to be like. And Jesus instead says, if you want to be considered great in the way that actually counts, in the way that matters, in the way that really lasts, then you've got to be good. We need to look like Jesus. We need to act like Jesus. It is a choice then of action and behavior. It is a choice then of our will. It's decisions about how we are going to act, the way we are going to live our lives, the sort of people we're going to be. And when we choose holiness and righteousness and wholesomeness and goodness, we are seeking for greatness. The sort of greatness that Jesus cares about. The sort of greatness that doesn't come and go depending on our own achievements or on the popularity of the day. But greatness that can last forever and forever and forever. We look at Jesus. Jesus is great. He is great. And what is he like? He's a servant. He serves. He is humble. He is obedient. His very life, every portion of it, every part of it, shows that humble service even unto death. The very nature of the incarnation is God Almighty humbling himself. He becomes small and helpless. He is born as a baby. He's got flesh and blood and bone just like us. He comes out a mess. Got 5 kids. I've seen them all born. They all come out messy. God Almighty doesn't have to do this. Jesus says, I have not come to be served. He doesn't come with, chariots and parades and everyone saying, hooray, and you're the best. He doesn't demand our loyalty. He doesn't say, worship me or else. I'm going to zap you. I'm going to get you. I will send a lightning bolt instead. He has come not to be served. Oh, Jesus, you're so great. Let's throw a parade and everybody say you're the best. He comes to serve. Every part of his life exemplifies that humble service. His humble birth, all of the miracles, all of the teachings, his life, his death, his resurrection. You could add the phrase, for our sake, to each of those, and they would still be true. Maybe even more true than they were before, because it demonstrates that purpose, that every facet, every aspect of his life is not to be served, but to serve in love, and to serve in grace, and to serve in care, to be a ransom, to give over his life, to buy back those of us who have been captive, who have been kidnapped, who have been slaves. His own life is laid down so that we might live. He says, you want to be great, do that. Do that. That's the sort of greatness that doesn't fall out of favor. That's the sort of greatness that you don't lose when you stumble and fall and finish last in the race. That is the sort of greatness that lasts forever and ever and ever. It's the sort of greatness that God himself cares about. It's the sort of greatness we've been built for, the greatness to be good. Be wholesome, be holy, be righteous, be right, be good. Now, don't think that I don't like excellence, or I'm saying it's bad or wrong or worthless to be at the top of your field. I love excellence. I am a Gator fan. I want us to win every game. I want us to be bigger and faster and stronger than the other guys. And I want them to be excellent on the field. But here's the thing. Even when society points us to people who have excellent qualities or characteristics, it tends to flatten that out, and we only see the accidents of their birth and assume that's what makes them great. That's what we ought to try to emulate. You know, so-and-so, they were born tall, they were born strong, they were born fast, they were born smart, they were born capable. We look at people that we would call great, and we see some of these surface attributes, and well, I can't do that. This whole, you can be anything you want to be. I will never be an Olympic sprinter. Sorry, heart is broken, that's not hard. But there's some things that we're just not going to be able to do because this is how we have been built. But here's the interesting thing. You find someone who is truly excellent in their field, someone, any field, athletics, academics, in business and industry, you find someone that we could all kind of agree on, well, they're great, and if you actually look at it, no matter what they have been born with, whatever genetic gifting that they didn't ask for and they could not create on their own, they've all taken that and they've done something with it. The truly great in their field, like, well, I was born with a certain extra number of fast twitch muscle fibers. Fine. But then they work at it. And then they train and they strive and they sacrifice and they improve. You find an Olympic quality athlete and you're going to find somebody who is up before the crack of dawn every single day. Every single day putting in the hard work, the drudgery, the stuff that nobody likes to do. They're running, they're lifting weights, they're training, whatever it is. You find someone who is at the top of their field academically or in industry and you don't know the hours they put behind it. Sacrificing for work or studying or whatever it might be so that other people could look and see they're great. And so, in essence, it actually fits with this. Regardless of who you are and what you've been given, regardless of your own personal, physical, or intellectual attributes, what do you do with them? Because Jesus says that's what true greatness will be. Regardless of who you are, tall or short or slow or fast or smart or dumb, do you use that which you have been given in ways that are gracious, in ways that are loving, in ways that serve, in ways that are good? You take what you got, and you choose to act in ways that are wholesome and holy and righteousness and right, and this is good. And this is the path. This is Jesus' path to being great. Now, I bring up great in this sense, not just because it is so connected to to the way our gospel reading sums things up, the life of the Christian, looking, thinking, choosing like Jesus. But we're getting near the end of the Job story. We've had it for a few weeks now. We'll get it just for, I think, maybe one more. And like Father Rob preached about last week, we saw in the suffering of Job, chapter after chapter after chapter of him saying, God, where are you? He gets nothing. He gets nothing. He could shake his fist, or he could cry, or he could cry out, or he could say, where are you? Or why don't you listen? And if I could only make my case, you would defend me. And Job gets nothing. There is nothing but silence. There is nothing but quiet. There is nothing but him and his own physical pain. There is nothing but him and his broken heart over everything that he's lost. There's nothing but his friends who started off being good guys but then got tired of Job whining and complaining and started talking about, well, Job, just confess your sin and be done with it, because clearly you have screwed up big time. So Job is trying to defend himself, but at the same time he's like, God, where are you? I mean, if I could only get an answer to this, it would just sort of feel better. You don't even have to heal me, but if you'll just tell me why, it won't be so bad. If you will just give me an audience where I can plead my case, I can explain I didn't do whatever it is you thought I might have done, you will take this away from me and it won't be so terrible. Just give me something. Throw me a bone. And we go chapter after chapter after chapter with nothing. We're chapter 38, and God now answers. And this is maybe not the answer we would have wanted to hear. Poor Job has really had it. I mean, it's been miserable and horrible. He has been suffering loss and pain in every facet and in every dimension. And we kind of want to have God just kind of, it's all right, buddy. Put his arm around Job and it's okay. I love you. I mean, we want something, right? We want something soft. We want something kind. We want something that God is going to answer so that Job will feel better because he has suffered so much. And what does God say? He says, who is that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man, and I will question you, and you will answer me. And all of a sudden, ow. Poor Job just keeps thinking, if God will only answer me, everything will turn out all right. And God does answer him, and God says, gird your loins. God says, put on your big boy underwear because you and me are going to have a chat. Okay. This is not what we were expecting, and it is not what we were hoping for. We were hoping for, softness and comfort and hugs and things to make us feel better. And instead, God asked Job, why are you asking me questions you don't even understand? You don't even understand enough to ask a question that makes any sense. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line on it? What were its footings set on? Who laid the cornerstone? While the morning stars sang, and while all the angels shouted for joy. And it's a beautiful phrase if you think about it. The stars are singing, and the angels are praising, and that's God making everything. All that there is seen and unseen, like we'll just say in the Creed in a minute. And this same God, Almighty. Almighty meaning all-powerful, meaning any ability, any power, any strength. He has got it all. He is the Lord and the Master, the creator of the universe, of the multiverse, of the omniverse, of absolutely everything. And the creator of all of us. There is not a single thing that we possess without Him. Not even our lives. And God says, how do you even understand this? You're asking me questions and demanding answers, and you don't understand how all these things fit together. Your finite human mind cannot understand infinitude. You're asking things that you just don't get. I can try to explain it, but even the explanations wouldn't make any sense to you. You don't see how the pieces fit together. But I'm telling you, they do. You can't visualize how the threads of the tapestry all come and make an image, but I'm telling you it does. This sounds like a hard rebuke from God, like, well, how dare you? And it's really not. It's really not. It's a rebuke of sorts, but it's one done out of love. Job, you don't understand, but, Job, I got this. I got this. And I got you. Job, you can't understand how the intricacies of the universe all fit together, but don't think that you are left alone and that no one else does, because I do. Made by my hand and sustained by my love, I got this. I got this, Job. You are not in this by yourself. You are not shouting into the darkness. You are not without hope or without a friend. I got this, Job. And I got you. Now, we could say, well, gosh, God, maybe you could have said that a little more nicely. But in essence, though this is a loving response for God to give the only explanation Job can really get, which is you don't understand, you just have to trust me, we sort of do this, and we sort of understand this, I think. If you have had school-age children, or perhaps certainly teenagers, you have had all sorts of indignant questions asked that they just don't understand the answer to, and at some point you just have to say no. Right? Well, I don't want to do homework. What's the point of homework? I think this is all stupid. Well, do it anyway. I don't want to go to bed. I want to stay up later and I want to keep playing games. Who cares? 9 o'clock is too early for me to go to bed. I should be able to go to bed whenever I feel like it, and I'll just get up in the morning and it won't matter. Go to bed. I want to have ice cream for breakfast. I like ice cream. It's not fair that I can't have what I don't like and you're so mean. Eat your vegetables. They're my favorite band, and they're always going to be my favorite band, so I'm going to get a tattoo of their name right across my chest right here, because I will always love them with my whole heart. Just stop it. Just stop it. You know, there's some things that kids just won't get. They're not thinking 20 years in the future. They don't understand the connection between staying up, not getting sleep, that affecting you the next day. You're doing poorly in school. It makes things difficult from not just for a day, but the ripple effect can last for a long, long time. They don't understand about some of the disciplines required, about the sacrifices and the long-term benefits, and they think that tattoos are awesome, and no one seems to think that when you're 55, you won't even remember this band, but they're all across your chest, and there's nothing you can do about it. So at some point, we just say no. You try to explain it to them, and they're not getting it, and you just say no. And that's what God is doing for Job. He can't understand the why. It's past him and beyond him. And God, in essence, says no, but that no is not a no of anger or stop. That is a no of love. It really is. It is a no that says, this creation that you think is against you, this world and this life that you find so hard, it's in my hands, and so are you, and it's going to be okay. I got this, Job, and I've got God. It fits so beautifully with both our psalm, which is reminding us. I mean, this is an almighty God who is talking to Job. This is a God who has made everything, who sustains everything. It says, you wrap yourself with light as a cloak. You lay the beams of your chamber in the waters above. Clouds are your chariot. You ride on the wind. The wind is your messenger. Flames of fire are your servants. You have set the earth upon its foundations, and it shall never move. You lay the waters until they stood higher than the mountains, but you rebuked them, and they fled. Never again will they go further than you have appointed them. You are not going to flood the earth as in the time of Noah, but your hand will keep us alive and sustain us. This is an almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-capable God, and yet there is our epistle from Hebrews. that he is a great high priest, and he is not without sympathy for us. He understands us and he knows us. That in Jesus we have a great high priest who is interceding, who is praying on our behalf, and who makes a sacrifice through his own perfect blood, so that atonement is made once and for all. He's the sort of high priest who says, I really understand and I really get it. Your own pain and your own suffering. I understand. I felt it too. A great high priest who has had flesh and blood and bone just like us, who understood what it meant, like Job, to hurt with physical pain, to be thirsty, to be frustrated, to be sad. And yet, a great high priest, perfect and almighty, who doesn't have to say, well, I'm going to make a sacrifice of a bull for you and a dove for you, and you're obviously worse than her, and a dove for me because we're both pretty good and you're pretty terrible, but that's going to cover it. A great high priest who does not need to make sacrifice for himself. Himself perfect and almighty, but a sacrifice of that blood to ransom us, to atone for us, one time, always, and forever. A great high priest who knows what we need and who cares, who gives it to us, who loves us, who serves us, who is good. Our great high priest is great because he's good. He's good, and we can trust him. He's good, all-powerful, but using that power in grace and in love to care for us, to serve us, to not beat us down for his own sake so he looks better, but to lift us up so we might be with him. He is great because he is good, and our gospel wraps it home that that's how we ought to respond then, is we ought to be good too. This is what our great high priest has done for us, for our sake, for the sake of the world. What are you going to do about it? I want to be like him. I want to be good. Regardless of who I am or where I've come from, regardless of the specific gifts or abilities that I happen to have, might not be the tallest, might not be the strongest, might not be the fastest, but what I've gotten, Lord, I've gotten from you. Help me use it the right way. Help me use it like you did and serve. Help me use it like you did so that I might be good, wholesome and holy and righteous and right. With whatever we have been granted, it's come from the loving hand of God. May we use it then in thanksgiving to him, not to make ourselves look higher than everyone else, but to help lift others to him. That like Jesus, we might follow him to be great. And as we do so, we would choose like him, always and everywhere with what we have. Choose like Jesus to be good.